Yes. Good afternoon. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for the final session of the day, which I assure you will probably be the most interactive. We are blessed today to have, I think, three extraordinary panelists. In a moment, they'll each introduce themselves, and we will proceed with individual presentations. Afterwards, we are going to have a Q&A with you, our dedicated audience. The UN SDGs are a big theme, but I think that what is sure is that everyone has got an opinion on them. Without further ado, Markus, if you could introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, my name is Markus Reichardt. I co-manage a small family office focused on mainly agribusiness in Africa. My background is in the sustainability sector in the mining industry, but I've also built a number of socially responsible investment indices over the time along the way. I'm more going to come at this very much from a practitioner on the ground perspective.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Tarig Osman, United Insurance Sudan. I'm a businessman. I'm chairman of United Insurance at present. We have different businesses in Sudan. I'm going to come at this also from a business side more than a technical side.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Gunewan Yasni. You can address me as Yasni. I am the chairman of Sharia Supervisory Board of the Astra General Insurance. I'm also one of the collegial chairmanship of the National Sharia Board, Indonesian Council of Ulama. But I'm not really that, pure in my Islamic scholar. More like a hybrid person, more like a practitioner as well as a Sharia scholar. Thank you.
Markus, if you want to start with your presentation.
Thank you, Reza. I want to keep it short and very much to some simple points. You have in front of you no, you don't. Where do we get back to the SDGs? The UN SDGs, as Iqbal has explained, is a comprehensive set of targets or objectives which should guide the sector that we are all in to improve its performance, reduce its impact. If I come at it as one of the people that come to you or the financial sector, the investors, to say, I have something, I am a businessman who wants to create a business, I need some funding. For me, these are a long list of, it's a grab bag of aspirational targets, many of which are very laudable, but many of which are very challenging. And we have already heard this morning in the previous event about how responsible investment, impact investment, ethical investment, the list is endless, is involved in looking at ways for finance to play a bigger role in meeting these targets. Now, how is this relevant to Islamic finance? I would say to you it's because, particularly in the African context, Africa represents the longest physical land border or cultural divide between Islamic culture and another culture. From Dakar in West Africa all the way to the Red Sea, there are a couple of thousand kilometers of interactive border between these cultures, and Takaful organizations are active in many of these countries. Now, for me, that's an advantage for Takaful and related investment organizations to seek a bigger role in the development, in the hopefully more responsible development of these countries. And I simply want to put to you a very practical suggestion, namely that if you are seeking to respond to these United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a sector, also do think about how not just this changed set of rules may shift your targets, but how you yourself can change in your organizational approach and on the ground approach to meet some of these. And I want to talk very briefly about a number of businesses that I've co-created or created that are all, and again, that are based on a slightly different principle. You may have heard the concept of the circular economy, the idea that we must recycle more, use less resources. I would say to you that maybe one of the greatest opportunities of operating in the developing world is that you have the opportunity, in the absence of over-regulation, to redefine the resources of business opportunities into which you could invest. So effectively, it's not just, is there a waste stream from which I can extract something? Is there, paper to recycle? But cast that net far wider. And as practical examples, I would like to point out to you, these are all businesses that existed at one state or time or do still exist. If we go from the bottom left, the picture with the coast is a former diamond mine in Namibia. They excavated these holes in search of diamonds, and instead of just pushing back the sand and saying, well, fine, if desert is desert, let's see what we can do with it. So they let the sea come back in, and they are growing oysters. Suddenly they've created a production facility by filling it with water. Equally, infrastructure, even if it is dedicated infrastructure, the next image is a partial picture of what the mining industry calls a thickener, or CCD, which is the infrastructure with which you separate heavy and light liquids. It's part of the gold or many metal extraction processes. When these things are done, they're a big liability to the company. When the company walks away, it has to demolish them, rehabilitate them. This is a structure designed to circulate water. Again, you can grow fish in them. In this case, the company was called Anglo Gold, and they never forgave me for calling the new business, because I was growing goldfish, Anglo Goldfish. The next image is an old diamond mine. The advantage of the underground tunnel, for those of you who are more familiar with the pharmaceutical or similar in high-tech manufacturing sector, an underground tunnel is an area of a stable, controlled environment. Mushroom farms on surface spend fortunes creating those environments. Those tunnels exist. They have stable humidity, stable temperature. Growers can move into them. The bamboo plantation in the corner, land completely destroyed by extractive surface mining. Bamboo is a very tolerant plant. That is biomass farming. Or above it, hydroponic cultivation of vegetables, the same concept. Again, a negative turned into a positive. My point to you, why am I coming at this with these examples that don't directly seem to have an impact, have relevance to Islamic finance, is I think that Islamic finance has an immense opportunity to look on the ground for these opportunities. Being on the ground, selling the resources, selling the policies, selling the financial services products, you have a much closer relationship with clients than many other sectors. Unless, of course, you prefer sitting in the air-conditioned office in the Sheraton and waiting for the poor business people to arrive begging for a few bucks. Because that's what does happen. This I'm just throwing up as an example. This is a project currently in process, which is designed to convert waste tires, which are not recycled across all of West Africa, into fuel carbon, and steel. And when I went to this hallowed impact investment sector with this, they killed it on one very simple reason. I was going to create a fossil fuel. I was going to create oil. So the good is being crowded out by the perfect. So I would like to leave you with the thought that when you are looking at how to operationalize responsible investment, don't start just with the familiar. Keep an open mind. Redefine your risk frameworks. Look at what is out there. And never forget that because you're at the rock face of selling these products directly to people, you actually have incredible data sets with which to evaluate those very same people from whose community those entrepreneurs will come with proposals, and thereby manage the risks of your investment products that you ultimately need to sustain your sukuks or other investment structures behind what you're doing.
All right, good afternoon. Hard to go after such a quick presentation. Let me try with that. I'm going to try to apply some of the theories that we have. I think SDGs are beautiful, everything, but trying to apply it in real life, that's your predicament. Takaful is a beautiful concept. Islam is a beautiful concept. Usually it's the application that has the problem. UN SDGs, I'm not going to go through that. You know what they are. They're listed there. Takaful principles, what I was trying to say here through the presentation, that they're very similar to the UN SDGs. You can go into it, and the concepts there do not in any way contradict or conflict with Takaful principles and the SDGs. I'm going to go into a triple convergence concept, which Friedman had in The World is Flat. Three things that change the world, or major things that change the world, and things that come together that brings it together. So the first one is the establishment of a global playing field. Collaboration. The world's becoming one place. The world is becoming flat. Sharing of knowledge, work without concern for geography or language. Things are becoming, it's a different world. The second convergence I'd go is the brick and mortar concept of all structures, all buildings, that being changed with the internet. It's also changing the whole world in barriers. Just trying to say that the whole world's becoming almost flat. And then the third one is the convergence against the chance to compete against everyone. It's a one playing field, so one product can go all over, it goes all over. If the product doesn't stand on its own two stand feet, then you have a problem and another product will come down and take it. Trying to cover it with a religious covering or something is not going to sell the product by itself. What I'm trying to say here, electricity was invented 100 years, 200 years, Benjamin Franklin, for it to become mainstream took a bit. Telephone, 100 years, for it to become where we are today, takes a bit. It takes different factors or underlying foundations for things to take the traction or the things for it to come into place. So, Takaful, I believe, is a disruptor. I think it can stand on its own 2 feet. My market is a closed Takaful market. So I don't have a benchmark with saying that I can compete with conventional before I leave Sudan, actually. And that is the plan generally. But the concept of Takaful is ethical. The idea, most people don't like insurance agents worldwide. We think they make too much money. The fact that you can take out the insurance profits, or surplus as we call it, from the equation, I think can be a game changer in how you change attitudes between people and their insurance agents themselves. The customer, our customers actually, we have 3 seats on a 10-seat board that are given to customers, not shareholders, customers. Having customers on your board is a magnificent thing. I think it just adds value. It gives authenticity. I'm an Apple person. If Apple had me on their board, I would be very happy with Apple. Or if a customer would say drop the prices because they keep overcharging. Sharia board provides an extra kosher or Sharia-based system of making things extra transparent and good. Takaful is what I'm like to say, Takaful is a mutual on steroids. It's got a little bit more than a mutual. It's more than a social enterprise because it does have profits on the investment side. So it's a bit of both. It's a mutual, but it's, I think, better than a mutual because it has shareholders that actually care about its future. We're different than a social enterprise, but we're also social enterprise because we're not designated for profit as the main or era. So I would say Takaful is the convergence of insurance, social enterprise, and Islamic financial theory all coming together into a convergence, into something becoming different. My hypothesis is that the New World Order, Takaful, is the natural development of insurance into the 21st century. You can use the SDGs as your yardstick to measure how much you're doing, how much good you're succeeding. We saw a presentation in the morning about the measurements of how much carbon you can take out or how much things you can do in the community. I think that instant feedback will make it definitely do something different. I think the problem when we're talking about this in our lectures, in our sessions, a lot of theory. In application, in reality, when you come down to the ground, when you have to compete against other competitors, you're going to have to get into the nitty-gritty. Sometimes religion has to be a little bit on the balance, let's say, side of it, but the market will determine what you need to do and what you can. I'd say that before 2000 was a different world. 2000 to 2020, I'd say economic growth, trade interrelated the world together. So I think in the new world era, where we're coming into the next 6th generation on IT, etc., we're coming into a new era where we need a new product. New product needs new rating, new system of thinking about it. So when I hear AM Best talking about the rating, yeah, the rating hasn't changed because it's based on the insurance system that's old. If you're trying to, again, I'll go back to the square and circle, you can't fit them together. You got to find a whole new rating system. If you come to talk to Africa about a rating problem, yeah, we're using Western Expedia, TransUnion to come and do rating. We don't have rating companies in Africa. So you got to create an African rating company that actually uses African models of things, or an Asian one that uses tribal, common cultural things to create a new system rather than trying to copy and paste the system forward. In a way forward, in a world where Apple, one individual company, has over $600 billion in reserves, I think there's sometimes corporate greed, corporate too much. This one creates a balance in things. Philanthropy is growing. 1.5 trillion, I think, is the latest estimate. I'm not talking about the Islamic zakah money that we're going to touch into. That can be another $1 trillion that can be touched. There's a lot of donations. What I'm saying is people are good. People do good things. But how to channel it or put it in the right channel, and it has to be feasible and make money. Takaful market estimated 19 billion, growing at 13%. These are numbers, you can throw them in, you can throw them out. I can make it look better, I can make it look worse. At the end of the day, it's increasing penetration or trying to get down to the real nitty-gritty of it. We are united, trying to take it to the next level. We're trying to expand. We believe in Africa generally, we believe in the world, but Africa is the first stepping stone, so we're going to start with that. Anybody, first of all, our knowledge or experience, we have 25 years experience, is open to anybody that's available. You have my card, contact. So anything that we did, it's not nuclear science and it's not a secret. And it didn't come through religious enlightenment. It came through fighting with your Sharia board, fighting with your supervisory authority, fighting with things. As a shareholder, I was trying to maximize shareholder profits. That was it. If you tell me I can maximize it by increasing board money, then I will increase board money. But if you put a limit to it, it's corporate governance. You have to make a limit and a check and balance system. If you don't do that, the system is always going to be corrupted. My conclusion and the way forward, I'd just like to read this. My present country of Sudan is going through a big transition right now. We saw one of the greatest peaceful revolutions I think the world has ever seen. We've taken out a 30-year-old dictator. We have over 20 armed revolts. We have our country separated in the past 30 years. What I would like to say is that it was the youth and the women that led us. It was two things that I never put credit for or gave them the things for. But what they said is that we're not going to accept this anymore. We can do it differently. The way they did it, I could not see the way forward, but they created a new way. With Takaful, I think we're on the same wavelengths. We have to create a new way. To create a new way, don't look at the old system, don't look at the things, use it as a reference, but if you don't trailblaze or create your own new balance, then we have a problem. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to share some facts about the Indonesian green sukuk. Firstly, Indonesia is very vulnerable to the climate change. Living inside the rigorous ring of water, fire, quake, typhoon. So you have to be pretty much spiritual as an Indonesian, because God can take your life at any time. So you have two things. You have to be kind to nature as an individual as well as a government. As a government, you have to be the green government, of course. As an individual, well, you have to be ready for every worst possible condition that can happen to you in Indonesia. That's why our government of Indonesia has developed what we call the Indonesia Green Sukuk, started in 2017. And I think the green initiatives actually have been discussed for many times by many countries, but fortunately Indonesia is the first one, Indonesian government I mean, is the first one to make these green initiatives into some kind of product, what they call the Indonesia Government Green Sukuk, starting from 2017. So Indonesia's commitment is to combat climate change with numerous actions throughout the particular policies. So it's the first one would be like mitigation. So the target is greenhouse gas reduction and adaptation. Of course, we have to adapt with the climate change. And biodiversity, we have to reduce our use of oil consumption. We started using gas for almost every device in Indonesia now. And of course, the government has passed some laws number 16, 2016, ratifying the UN Convention on Climate Change. And of course, we have to contribute for Paris Agreement towards 2030. Okay, and of course, Indonesian Green Sukuk is Sharia compliant. It has to be Sharia compliant, okay? And the green initiatives, I mean the green features of the Green Sukuk is reviewed by Cicero, an international independent reviewer. And of course, it is aligned with the Sustainable Development Growth Goals of the United Nations. And we have several green framework regarding the Indonesian Green Sukuk. So, 4 pillars. The first pillar is using the proceeds. It has to be in what I call civic as well as amanah ways. So it's like the characters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to be civic and amanah to use the proceeds. And the second pillar is project evaluation and selection. You have to be very clever in doing the project evaluation and selection, because in this case, you have to make profit or margin out of the issuance of the Green Sukuk, but the project itself, it has to be not contradicted with the green initiatives. And the third one would be the management of proceeds. Again, it has to be Siddiq and Amanah. And then, of course, the government have to report everything on the green framework. That way, the government has to be tabligh in if we use the characters of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What about the endorsement of the Sharia scholars? We go through the endorsement of the Sharia scholars. You see on the right side, this Indonesian Green Sukuk has been endorsed from local Sharia scholars, and I happen to be one of them. If you see number 4, that's my name. But also from the international Sharia scholars like Sheikh Nizam Yaqubi, Nazir Hamad. You can see all of those important persons as our Sharia scholars that there are mentions for many times. If you talk about insurance, you talk about Sukuk, you talk about the banking in Sharia, that's the name. And again, this is another fact. Indonesian Green Sukuk has been awarded more than 5 times within less than 2 years. Why? Because merely we are pioneering this. We are the first in this. I'm not yet hearing any country doing this. I don't know why, but because of this, Indonesia has been awarded like more than 5 times within less than 2 years. And here are some numbers about how the distribution of Indonesian government green sukuk by geography as well as investor type. If you need this kind of a presentation, I can just give it to you. And I think that's it. I only have like 8 slides for this. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your presentations. Yeah. I'd like to start with a little quote from my hero, Muhammad Ali. He said in his book in 2004, "If my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, then I can achieve it." With this, I'd like to, in the interest of time, open the floor to debate. Yeah. I'm sure that all of you have got an opinion on UN SDGs. Yeah? And as I said, there's no question which should not be asked. For me, it is a very, very nice list, but they should not be in any way idolized. I think that it's a very good starting point, but this is something which I think over time will need to be iterated upon and improved. Could everyone who's interested in asking questions to our panelists raise their hands? Okay. Yes. Oh, yes. There are no questions. Okay, very well. Let me start. Okay, Yan Chu at the. Okay, very good. Yan Chu in front. Thank you.
Hi. My question is for each of these panelists. In your own specific context and case, what would your pick be for the focus area that would give you the most immediate and greatest return on investment?
Well, operating largely from an African perspective, I would say waste reuse. Simply because there are so many societies that are in this transitionary space between, shall we say, having become developed, but already having access to a lot of the products of the developed world, but not yet having access to the, at least landfill